Hey team, welcome to the latest episode of Accidental Business Owners. The premise of the show is that last year Steve and I became full-time business owners. We left our 9-to-5s to go all in on the podcast and the other businesses we built off the back of it, and thought it would be interesting to document our journey. Last year we also started working with a business and mindset coach, Di Foster, who you might remember as a B2B guest, and we quickly realised she was the perfect foil to help us work through all the highs and lows of running a business. Now, this episode is a one-on-one with me and Di, and if you remember last time, things got a bit crunchy. But in this episode, we talk about what that session meant and the progress I've made in the 2 months since. And during the episode, we'll also answer a listener question brought to you by our friends at Xero. Accidental Business Owners is sponsored by Icehouse. Icehouse is a community for Kiwis wanting to take their business to the next level. Their practical programs, one-on-one business coaching, and short workshops are designed specifically for people who own and manage businesses and the leaders they back to get things done. To learn more, visit theicehouse.co.nz.
And we're still in Christchurch.
Here we go, round three.
Round three. Hello, boys.
Hey, Di.
We're going to kick Steve
Kick
out.
shit off.
Yeah, going to kick shit off. We're going to kick Steve out in a minute. But just before you go, Steve, just quickly, we had a bit of a conversation over breakfast this morning, and you said that you'd noticed a shift in Shay since the
Incident. Nah, should we talk about that first?
Yeah, let me talk about that first, because this show has become awesome. It's become way more popular than I ever could have imagined, and with that you get people with opinions on it.
Slightly polarising at times.
And I think there was one moment, and this is, by the time this goes out, this was a couple of months ago, where you guys had a one-on-one, and at the end of it was this kind of gritty exchange.
Ominously, it was after an advisory.
Again.
And that clip has been viewed hundreds of thousands of times, 250,000 times across our different social channels. And there is a perception, I think, that is kind of what this relationship dynamic is, and it's so far from reality. It's so this relationship is full of warmth and love and helping and
challenge at times.
And at times challenge. But I think the perception is that it's very combative, and it's not that.
And it's not that at all. Yeah, there is this perception, because I get people saying to me all the time, "You're very scary," and it's like, no, I'm a big teddy bear, mate.
Yeah.
It's like I'm just like.
But also, like, the clips we often use to try to get people to watch me crying or
clickbait.
Attention economy.
So whatever, blah blah blah. But just before, because this is a one YouTuber, I just want to touch on. Well, what happened, I wasn't sure what happened and how that would be received.
Neither were we.
And kind of how it would play out. So I just want to speak to what I've seen since that happened, which was 10 weeks ago. Like a real change in Shay, like an unbelievable change. I don't really know how to describe it. It's just kind of like something clicked. I don't know. And I'm guessing it was the strength of the message and the way it was delivered and the harshness of it. But timing, but it just, man, like the way that you have turned up in the last 10 weeks, I was like, holy shit, he's here. Like, we're in it. So, yeah, I just want to give that context, and I'm going to leave you guys to get into it. But
that's very kind of you, Stephen. You should have said that on the Ambassadors when you said what's something that you admire about Seamus.
Well, you said something really nice, so I couldn't do.
We couldn't go nice.
So anyway, I'll leave you with that. But yeah, I just want to give that context of what I have seen since that conversation with you two. So I'll leave it to you from here, Di.
Love your work.
Thanks, Steve.
Let's just talk about that episode for 2 seconds. On reflection, I feel like it was some of my greatest work and some of my worst. One of the rules that we have now is that we're not allowed to do ABO recordings at 8 o'clock in the morning after a 8-hour advisory meeting. We learnt that lesson from there because I was super tired. I remember feeling like, whoa.
Yeah, I mean, we'd actually even spoken about it in the morning of before we recorded that episode. And it's like these... Then unscripted conversations, we kind of don't often, like I've come into this with no real knowledge of where we're going to go and what we're going to talk about. So what you are getting in real time as an audience member is and sometimes you see it probably as my brain ticking over as you have those aha moments. And people speak to me about those, like, man, I can see the wheels in your turn. Like I can see the wheels turning in your head as you're trying to think through what you're talking about, which is, I think, really powerful. But I think what's important about that is when the cameras are all off, nobody sees any of that. No one sees the nuance of the relationship, or, they see a version of you that turns up on a mic and is recorded, but not the level. And we spoke to this, not the levels and the depth of the working relationship. No one's privy to the phone call when you're driving up to Auckland, 1 hour after we wrap up filming, just to make sure that there's the aftercare and the text the following morning.
And it was an hour conversation.
Yeah, absolutely.
We just stayed on the phone and chatted
as we unpacked what it was and the sense check of there. But one of the nice reflections that I've had, having spoken to you, and I really appreciated you putting it on LinkedIn, was a post about how when the words were coming out of your mouth and you were saying it to me, it's a little bit of a gut check for yourself as well about
100%.
where you're doing it. And we had a similar experience with Stanley Henry on the Attention Seeker podcast, where he really challenged us on a topic. And I think he checked himself in real time, saying, I'm not saying this to try and be a dick about it. While I'm saying it, I'm actually thinking about what's my purpose and what's my reason. So
from a coaching session, you wouldn't believe how often that happens. Sometimes I say, I think I might be talking to myself more than I'm talking to you in this moment. And it's not, I am talking to the person, but I'm also just trying to acknowledge that I'm just a person that shows up and tries to help where I can.
But it's really interesting as well, because a couple of episodes ago, we're talking to Stephen about the stress and the feeling of the weight of the world being on your shoulder. And I sent a message to Doc Brown saying, I feel like at the advisory, it's going to be difficult for him because there's just so much pressure on him. And I could see that coming for him, because I've been in those shoes. I've been in that place where you feel like you don't know what to do, no matter the harder you seem to work, the further off the thing that you're trying to do kind of feels, and you feel like, oh man, I've turned the corner, and you send something in and it comes back and it's like, no, this isn't what we were thinking at all. And you've got the cash flow chat, like, oh, I get it. I get all that stuff, and family and life and all those bits and pieces. And it's just, yeah, it's when you have a friendship and you work in so close proximity with somebody as well, it's funny the things that you notice that you don't notice as well.
So Steve and we'll possibly drop this into the podcast somewhere, just mentioned that the change in you over the last 10 weeks.
Yeah.
How do you feel about that? What he said, or your reflections on the last 10 weeks?
That's maybe a similar experience to what he had when I said that I could see that he was feeling stressed, and I don't know. I don't necessarily see what he's seen in terms of that change. You've referenced it a couple of times as well, of being like, man, I've noticed a big change in you showing up. And I think for me, perhaps I'm a little bit further ahead, where I've seen maybe what was coming on the horizon, or the potential for what was coming, and I was like, oh, I need to reduce the cognitive load on myself so that I can do the things that I absolutely need to do for us to keep continuing. And I don't think I've quite nailed it yet.
No, but I think in some of our conversations, you have, without effort, you've just said what you think.
Yeah.
And you won't let it go.
Yeah. And that was one thing from the last advisory where I got a bit of criticism, is that I often don't speak up, or I don't share my opinion. So maybe that conversation has given me license to arc up every now and again when I really firmly believe something or think something.
And how I want to wrap that and phrase that together is, some people have the ability to see things coming, and you do. And so why it's important that you speak up is that you will literally change things from being a derail to a blip in the road. So that's why we need you to speak up. Which
is interesting, because on the SWOT analysis, the strengths and weaknesses was my proactive thinking. I don't know if you remember that from the advisory papers, but in that SWOT analysis, it was exactly that, like proactive thinking and thinking into the future
was a weakness.
Yeah.
See, I think that you don't.
But your greatest weakness is your greatest strength.
See, I don't think that you see things. You have a tendency to see how to get there, the difficulties on that road, rather than you're not necessarily great at the cloud big picture thinking.
Oh yeah. Maybe that's the new the kind of the detail in that comment.
Yeah. So I think that your use, like, yep, I get that that's where we want to go, and I can see why that's going to be a problem. Now, you quite often, people like you will quite often come across as like negative, or it's like you only see things, half empty or whatever that, like my husband's like that. I'm like, for 2 years I thought, God, you're the most negative prick I've ever been around. And then I realised that he's actually what's called a mismatcher. So he can see why things might be a problem. And my job is to take that list and to mitigate it.
Right.
Is to work out which of those are actually a problem and to mitigate them, and which of them are not a problem and not to worry about them. Just like he can pick up a contract and tell me what's not in it. I could only read the contract and tell you what is in it.
Yeah.
Because I'm consumed by what's there, where his brain pulls back and goes, yeah, but what about this, 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 and this? And I'm like, where was that in the contract? It's like, where was that in your brain? How did you come up with that? So acknowledging that we're different and working to those strengths.
Yeah, I wondered, and apologies to Josh Cox, because I know he's been chasing me about the strength, the skills, the compatible skills between Stephen and I, and I think it's something that we should definitely make the time to do, to understand those two things, or at least go through the exercise of that, because it probably would help our working, our yin and yang, and where those two things meet.
Anything to increase our awareness about ourselves and then about the people we work with, I think is a positive step.
Yeah.
So I think that what we've seen is a louder voice.
Yeah.
So I think that why you might not have noticed it is the things that you believe or the things that you see are still exactly the same, but what we're noticing is that you're just more vocal about it, and we see the value in that.
That's cool.
Although, obviously, the session itself wasn't that comfortable.
No, but, I mean, sometimes I guess you've got to have those uncomfortable moments, and whatever it is, to get some of the learning. You've got to, I don't know, fall off your bike is kind of the one that I'm on, to use the BMX kind of analogy from a couple of episodes ago of like, had a crash.
Well, I don't know that you need to, but I think that when you're wanting to do interesting things in life, then it's definitely possible. So I don't know that you ride the BMX track in order to want to fall off, but given that you did fall off, then why not take the learnings and the growth from it? Yeah,
and I think given like the changing landscape that's happening around us as well on both sides, it's I think it was timely to then start to find that voice a little bit, because you've got to create your own space for whatever happens in the future too. I'm going to stop your flow there, Di, for a listener question brought to you by Xero, your business supercharged. You've loaded this one up. What have we got?
Hey guys, I got a question for you. At the moment, my to-do list sort of feels like it never ends, and I'm constantly switching between having new business meetings, trying to secure new sales, operations side of things, the admin, running the invoices on Xero, and then trying to do a bit of self-promotion and marketing of the business as well. So how do you focus when you feel like everything's urgent?
Can't believe Steve managed to change his voice from his own one to somebody else. That sounds like a very Steve question. What's your solution, Di?
Prioritise and time block. When you first start a business, or in businesses quite often we wear multiple hats, I think it's really important to time block with those hats on. So instead of doing your invoicing on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, just do it on a Friday for an hour and get everything done in that time, so you're super focused in there. So you should have an idea of which hats you need to wear and roughly how long things take. While you're building your business and the pressure is on, really, really get disciplined about time blocking and really understand the hats that you're wearing. And the growth part to that is, if you're using some sort of task management tool, then record the times that things take and record the role that they are, because your first hire should come from that list. So if you get really disciplined about it, you'll then, when you go to look at for your first hire, you'll be like, actually, I can give them this chunk of work and that's been taking me 10 hours a week. So I'll give them this and then I can train them up in these areas. So it's a really good thing to do so that you manage things now, but also on a path to growth. So you understand the hat that you're wearing, your time block, and within that you prioritise quite strongly.
Strong answer, Di.
Thanks. You're welcome.
And thanks, Xero. Try
Always.
free for 30 days. Go to Xero.com. Terms apply.
A couple of things, if we specifically talk about the way that we work together, is that's been a unique journey in itself, is all of us kind of figuring out what does this accidental business owner thing do. And, you know, there were a few comments that if one chose to take them very personally, you could. And it was interesting because one of them was very much like, you know, she's only talking about herself and da-da-da. And I know that that's how it comes across. And the reason I did that is because otherwise the attention on you would have been way harsher. So it was almost like, because of some of the grittiness of the message, it was like there's fillers in the space just to soften it, because I could see that you were going, like you were processing a lot, and it was almost like, let's just back off and not just keep drilling down, because coaching is a dynamic kind of interaction where it's, you know, like it's a two-way thing, and holding space for people in difficult situations is, I don't know, I guess is a talent in itself. And as long as you feel that I was holding the space, I'm not too concerned what other people feel. As long as you feel that I'm equally challenging and supportive, that's important to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the point that I keep coming back to when that's thrown up, it was my instant reaction was not to bite back at you. And people might misconstrue that as me just sitting there and copying it, which was definitely not. That was not how that dynamic played out. I think one of your real skills in that situation was to understand how to deliver that message to me and how letting it sit, but also like you inserting yourself into the story about how you're gonna lead me to do that's what I took away from it. And I get how it is portrayed in a social media clip as just me sitting there like a little cuck in the corner, just getting absolutely punished. But like that's not. And again, the comment I keep coming back to is that my gut was telling me everything that you're saying is absolutely right for all a million reasons that nobody out there receiving it will ever understand, because it's deeply personal to me.
Yeah.
It's my shit that I'm working through, not your shit.
Yeah.
And in that moment is a one-on-one coaching point between a coach and whatever I am, player, I don't know, a coach and their student, to get the best out of them. And the fucking proof is in the pudding 10 weeks down the line where, hello, everyone's going, look at this.
The proof is always in the pudding. And, you know, one of the things that my dad would say is that I am his best student and his best teacher. And you guys are my best students and my best teachers. Like, let's not pretend that I come in having all the answers. A lot of it is just conversation, and it's just like, hey, how do we get here? And yeah, I've got some experience over here. And like I just said to Steve in the last, episode, he was like, oh, I'll be bottom of the ranks, going into this. And I'm like, hold on a moment. Can I just point out what might be really obvious that you're missing, that will be obvious to everyone else? Why, the one thing you are really amazing, not the one thing, 'cause he's amazing at a lot of things, but the thing that you have been incredible at is one of the pieces that other people in business find incredibly difficult. Someone said to me, actually it was Ben Taylor said to me, he's reached out and we've become friends, and I just really, really appreciate it.
Is that Serene Taylor's son?
Yeah, great guy. He just cracks me up. We send each other voice notes and have a good laugh about life. And one thing he said to me is, Di, what's it like to just have a 15-minute conversation with somebody and just change their perspective? Like how, you literally have just changed the course of someone's life. And I said, how would I know that? I'm not there. And he went, that is such a shame. He said, that is not okay. And I said, but that's actually the job. My job is to sow a seed. It's not to do the work for you. I think in that particular situation, I was creating a space sort of almost for you not to run away from it, to just face it and reflect on it. And you did, and that's the piece that I'm incredibly proud of, is that you didn't get hooked up on necessarily my delivery, but in the understanding of the message, which I couldn't be more proud of.
Oh, thank you. I think probably a natural tendency of mine is to hide away, is the avoidance kind of element, and it still shows up in everyday life in various elements when there's a sticky situation or something, particularly when I feel like I'm going to let somebody down, is that I will often wait until the very last moment when there's no opportunity for potential blowback on me because the moment has been missed, and that's a shitty way to be. It's a real shitty way to be, and I'm trying really hard to stamp that out of my my toolkit of reacting to situations. But
why is it a shitty way to be?
Because I know I can lean on people very rarely will dislike me as a person, and
lucky you.
I know, how shit that sounds as well.
No, that's great. I love it.
But you know what I mean? Like I skirt off on my personality of being like, fuck, that sucks, but he's still a good guy, and we'll still continue to deal with him and relate with him, and that's shit to rely on that. I don't want to be viewed as that flaky guy that fucks it off at the last minute. That's not what I want to be known for. Who are we known for? That's not what I want to be known for. But I know there's elements that are still in there, and it's still, when I talk about that gut reaction, I still kind of wince at that, going, there's still parts of you that are like that in various situations, when it's a lot better to say, no, I can't do that,
and have the upfront conversation
2 weeks beforehand.
Yeah.
Then
is your natural answer, oh yeah,
totally,
and then not do it?
Yeah. No, yeah, well, if I get unstuck, it will be wait as long as possible before
telling them you can't.
Saying
yeah, interesting.
Oh, it's shit.
Because it makes you feel shit?
And makes them feel shit. It's just shit for everybody.
So the very thing that you did in the beginning was wanting to please them.
Yeah.
But then, but then also in the back of your mind, you're knowing that you're going to let them down, but you'll avoid that for as long as possible.
Oh, but I'll also be in agony internally for the 2 weeks, knowing, or the week, or the 4 days, or the whatever it is, or then I'll try and spin a million plates to try and
make it work,
make everything work for everybody, and at the end of the day, it's me that's operating on fucking rushing around trying to get lots of different things done at the same time.
So can we practice this? No, thank you.
Yeah.
Say it.
No, thank you.
Say it again.
No, thank you.
No, thank you. So there's
I'd love to, but I can't.
Yeah. That's not a priority for me at this time.
Yeah.
I have other priorities that have my attention in that couple of months.
Another opportunity has come up.
Yeah.
And that one is better for me.
Yeah. That is what I'm choosing at this time.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Or I'd love to, but I've already committed to something else.
Yeah. Well, I might like to do that. I've got other commitments.
Yeah. And yeah, that's a good one. That's a good work on.
If it's not a hell yes, it's a
polite no.
No, thank you. I think that as you get busier, this is definitely, we talked about this in the last episode when I said about my client out of Hamilton that, we literally took all the coffees out of her day, out of her week.
Yeah, I wondered why I couldn't book in with her. That's a joke. I have no idea who you're talking. I have a joke. There's no idea who that is.
Shay and I have this joke. If I mention anyone, he's like, oh, I wonder who that is.
Yeah. Or, oh, yeah, I know them. Oh, you mean old Burnsy? Yeah, I know them.
Because I know nobody, or I don't remember anyone, and he knows everyone. He has this habit of reading my notes upside down, the little shit.
I'm trying to curb that as well.
Yeah, I love it. I wish I had that gift. I have to turn around. Anyway, where were we?
Your friend in Hamilton that had all the coffees on the way up.
Yeah. So the no thank you. I even like the fact that you might write down some of these things and practice them.
Yeah.
Because when you're saying yes to everyone else, who are you saying no to?
Saying no to me and my loved ones.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Because it's the loved ones. It's the ones that are closest to you are the ones that suffer.
Yeah.
Because they will always have your back.
And this turns
To a point.
To a point. This turns up in different ways, though, doesn't it? Because I know that when I was coming back from Hamilton the last time when we recorded, I had this amazing opportunity and I rang my husband and I was like, oh my goodness, this has just happened. You know, this could lead to XYZ and some international stuff. And he decided at that moment, old Steve the Stallion, decided at that moment it was a really good idea to explain to me the difference between international and domestic travel. It wasn't a good moment. It was the wrong moment. But luckily, we've known each other enough that I sent him a message saying, I think I just needed you to say, I'm really happy that he thought you were good enough to do that, because it's literally what I took from it. And his reply was, but we all know you're good enough. Like, why is that still a thing? You know, it's like, because I'm still a 6-year-old girl trying to prove myself.
Yeah. And everybody is. Everybody wants the thing, wants to be asked to do the thing or to be thought about to do the thing.
Yeah.
But you can't do the thing all the time.
What actually he was trying to say to me, which came out yesterday when I decided to say to him, I'm trying to set up the best retirement for you ever. I'll still work and you get to be my bag boy. Like, how can you not see this? And this is what it looks like, which I had failed to tell him. And he said to me, yeah, I've been thinking about this. What I actually wanted to say was, I think that sounds really exciting. And how are we going to look after you during that? And I went, oh, that's nice. That's not what you said, but that's nice. So it's important to kind of, I don't know, hear those messages around us.
Yeah, I think one of the other things has been, you know, for so long, it was only me. You know, and I had relationships and they were very understanding and I was able to go and do all the things that I wanted to do and I didn't have really any responsibility. And now I'm in a very different life space, particularly in the relationship with Doc Brown, where we're thinking together, we're thinking more aligned, we're thinking together about what the combined future looks like and where the shiny opportunity to go and do something in the Pacific Islands and football, which I love doing, comes up. Then it becomes less of the hell yes and more of a, okay, what am I going to give up? What am I going to give up here? And that's been a real perspective change. You know, I joke about things like, you know, adulting, like, you know, applying for a mortgage and going and buying it. Like that stuff is probably, that's never been on my radar or on my horizon. My mindset for so long was always, well, I would naturally inherit my mum's house. So I don't need to worry about that sort of thing. But that's not how everybody operates. That's what I've learned in the last little while as well, is that there's different points of view and nobody's right and nobody's wrong. But yes. you've got to find a compromise in the middle to show up for that person that's you know, that you are responsible to.
Because you want to be.
Totally.
I'd just like to point that out. That's not because, you know, you've got a relationship where
or society tells me that that's the thing that I need to be doing.
That's the change in you, is you want that.
Absolutely.
You want to show up. You want to be there for that.
Yeah.
Also, I know that we've had some conversations around some cultural things, you know, and I know I've got a couple of clients with the same, which I find really eye-opening, you know, in that oldest child and their responsibilities. And I think I said to you one time, could you not help out? You know, it's like, that's a lot of responsibility for the oldest. It's like, do you not feel any sort of like, could we not help a little bit?
Yeah, well, I mean, and we all do. But to leap back to the first point, that was a really interesting sidebar conversation that I had with a couple of people that come from mixed Pacific Island and European backgrounds as well, around what that world looks like, because that's another different lens to it as well, where there are things that are sort of ingrained in you that you've grown up thinking and believing that get naturally challenged when you come into other environments.
Yeah.
And how do you do that, particularly that last minute procrastination or not wanting to do it, or the personal brand piece in particular about never elevating yourself above others and always trying to kind of keep an even keel and understand your hierarchy in this kind of, you know, tribe kind of communal situation, for want of a better term, which is, again, I'm just making sense of that. But conversations like our one that we had just puts a slightly different lens on that, and coming up with a hybrid solution that works for all parties, that keeps me kind of where I feel like I need to be. And
I think that the way that we've talked about this, like, I'm very open to why that might be and things like that. Because, like, in our family, like I'm number 3 of 4 children, and I have taken, my dad said to me when I was about 14, it's your job to look after everyone. And I was like, okay. You know, and because of my personality, and, you know, so I've looked after some stuff with mum and dad, but everyone in our family has different responsibilities.
Yeah.
And so I think it's just been a little bit more fluid to, I don't know, our part in that and what we say yes to. But this has been a interesting conversation around, it still goes on. Some of those, no, don't read the comments. It's been an interesting process having had that conversation and the reaction from it. But the thing that I want to reflect on is it all goes back to how you responded to it, which I could not be more proud of, and I couldn't be happier with the way that you took the conversation and you didn't concentrate on maybe the delivery, but you just concentrated on the reflection for you and what that meant for you.
Well, let's share in the credit, because I wouldn't have got there without the understanding and knowing of that is the delivery that was required in that very moment.
I remember someone saying to me, you know, how do you know what to do? And it's like that moment was a year in the making.
Yeah.
That was not that this happened yesterday and so therefore I'm going to say this. This was me watching for a year and picking my moment and feeling like you were ready to change. You just needed a little bit of a, if I can see it, then others can see it. Super proud of you, Shay.
Thank you.
Love your work.
And yours.